This is the reordering items part 2. So if you haven't watched the part 1, it's in the description down below. Make sure you watch it first before you watch this one. So in this video, we are going to check whatever we have learned from the previous video and find out how we can apply it to do another type of reordering. So what we have seen in the first video was a basic, like that was the very basic way of doing a reordering in Flutterflow. But today we are going to learn a new way of doing the same thing. It is the same concept, it is the same thing, but in a very different way. So I like to give you all the possible opportunities and scenarios so you can choose which one based on what app you are building. So without any further ado, let's jump into it. Before we actually move on, I like to have or to make a quick recap, and as always this video is broken into parts. You can skip each part if you want. We have some timestamps in the description down below, so jump to each part whenever you want. So now what we have seen in the last or in the first part, and it is in the description if you want to check it out. So now we have seen a custom code, right? So we have picked a custom code from Flutterflow documentations. So that custom code actually needs it needs some arguments, right? So it needs what? It needs old list, or it's actually, so it was called list, and it's a list of strings. So we can use actually list of numbers, but that's the type of the first argument. And we also needed the old index, which was an integer, of course, and of course we needed the new index, which was also an integer, right? So that was the type of, so these are the three arguments that we needed. And that, so when you give it all of these three parameters or arguments, when you give them to the custom code, you will have a result. So what is this result? The result is going to be a new list, right? So for example, when you give it let's have a look at an example here. So let's say you gave it maybe you give it a list of names. We have John, Mike, and Maria, and also we have Nick, for example. We have this as our old list. So what happens, like, we're going to give it to the custom code, and we are going to like give it first. So let's give it the old list. This is the old list. So we need to give it, for example, let's say we wanted to take Mike from, like, let's actually have a look at the indexes of each item here in this list. So here we have the 4 people, and here on the left side we have the indexes. So the first one has 0, 1, 2, 3, right? These are the indexes in Flutterflow. But in supabase, when you have the ID, for example, the ID starts from 1, but the indexes, they all start from 0. Keep that in mind. So whenever you are working with Flutterflow and you hear the word index, keep in mind that it will definitely, like all the time, it will start with 0. It's something that most people miss, and you don't want to be one of them, because it's devastation and it will make you crazy while building your app. So make sure that indexes always start from 0. And if you want me to make a video on this, comment down below indexes, and I will put that on my list so I can make a video just about indexes, so you can understand what they are all about and how you can use them correctly to save time and frustration. So here, let's say we wanted to just take Mike to the top. That was our goal. So let's write it here. Take Mike to the top, right? So what will be the old index? So we want to take Mike to the place of John. So we are going to, so this is the old index, and what is going to be the new index of Mike is going to be 0, because we want to take him up, and when we take him up, he will take the 0 index. So we only can switch the names, but we cannot switch the indexes. That is impossible. So let's actually give it the old and the new index. So now we have given it the old index of Mike, which was 1, and the new index, is going to be 0, because we want to take Mike from 1 to 0. And keep in mind, when reordering, you always reorder the items, but not the indexes. It's impossible to reorder indexes. They will always be 0, 1, 2, 3. They will never be reordered. So what's going to be the result? I would like you to pause the video for a moment and think about it, right? So what's going to be the result here? So the result is going to be that Mike will get the new index, which is 0, and John will also, since 0 has been taken by Mike, so John will take the only index left, which was 1. So when Mike goes to 0, 1, the index 1 will stay empty, so John will have nowhere to go except for the index 1. So this was just a quick recap, and to be honest with you, I think that this small part of this video is way more important than the first part entirely. So it's very important to watch this part specifically, because it will help you a lot to understand how reordering works. So now let's go ahead and start learning the new way of reordering items with Flutterflow. So now let's actually go ahead and just prepare some sort of a project that we are going to use. So let's go to the database here and no, to the table editor. So we've used the parties maybe in a previous project, so we are going to use it now because it's very, very useful. So why not use it? So we're going to insert a couple of rows, and let's actually rename this. And so we are going to prepare some data here. Go ahead, create your supabase account, prepare some data, and I will meet you once I have prepared all of my data. So here I have prepared all of my data here, and as you can see, I have added a new field called order ID, so which is an integer, and as you can see, it is 1, 2, 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? No problem. So we can just for example, go to the field, no, to the sort, and apply sort by order ID increasingly, right, or ascending. So yeah, so we can see, no, we need to actually get it back just like that, apply sorting, and just click here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. So now as you can see here, we have a mismatch in ID, or a misorder in ID. So we don't have 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's okay, because the function of the ID is to give unique numbers to each row, but the function of the order ID is to give the first one always the number 1, then number 2, then number 3, then number 4, then number 5, right? So because it's called order ID, it orders things from 1 to the to however how much rows you have. If you have 6, then you are going to start from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or you can start from 0. There is no problem with that, but you can start like with 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the order ID is a very big topic that nobody is talking about on YouTube, but I have made a video, so you can check it in the description down below. But if it was not there, just subscribe and I will notify you when it is published, right? But before you do that, check the description down below to learn more about order ID and how important, like if you are going to do something with reordering, if you don't have this field, then don't dream of doing it, right? And don't count on the ID, for example, because that's a problem. We are going to see it in the next, on the video about the order ID, which might be, for example, the part 4, or maybe in the part 3 of reordering. So just have that field, and it has to be continued with. So there is no, so here it's not continued with, because it does not start with 0, it does not start with 1, and we have gaps, like we have 6 and we have 9, right? There is a gap between the numbers here, right? So it's not continuous. We cannot count on it, but we need to count on the order ID, which we will see in the part 3. So now we have like prepared some some data here that we can work with. Let's go ahead and prepare some UI before we can move on. So this is what we have done in the part 1 of reordering, and I think that we use dynamic children, and the source of the dynamic children was a base stage. and when we reorder, we update this page stage and the changes will appear instantly. But you don't have like you can't use dynamic children all the time. What if you had a backend query, like a supabase query? But before we do that, we have linked our supabase project in the first part. So let's just get the new schema to see the tasks here. Good. So now let's say maybe you don't have a you don't have a dynamic children, but you have a supabase query, right, of tasks. You are querying a list of tasks, and you might wanna. So here we have the reordering. So what field you want? So which field is gonna be used for reordering? So it's gonna be. So should we count on the ID? No, but we can count on the order ID because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's continuous, right? So let's use this as so this is very important. Like I promise you, if you don't use the ordering in the query type, sorry, in the backend query, if you don't use the order ID as an ordering field, then don't expect to do anything with reordering. That these are some very important things that you have to set up before you do anything. So click on confirm. So here is going to be, instead of going for the item, we will check the name. So now of course we had an action here, so let's remove those action chain, and now that this is like a very simple UI setup, now let's move on and see how it works and how we can reorder it. Now in the last part we have learned how to reorder a list of strings. This time we are going to be reordering a backend query, which is complicated than reordering a list of strings, right? Now we have a backend query. We have John, Mac, Mike, Maria, and Nick. These are 4 students, each one with a different ID. And here we have the index. This is what we have used when we were building the supabase project. So the index is what we used to reorder things from the first one to the last one. So the first to do is to extract the IDs of all rows and save it into a stage. A stage is inside of Flutterflow, of course, right? So we are going to take all of the IDs and save them in the stage. Then we are going to give that list of integers and give it to the custom code. And you might say, hey, we saw that the custom code only accepts strings, not integers. I will show you how you can make it accept a list of integers and a list of strings depending on what you want to use. So once we have finished like reordering, maybe we want to switch Mike to the top and Maria to the bottom. So here we have made some changes. So this will show you the change. Like we have taken 5 to the top and 3. So we have switched it between 3 and 5 and 6 and 10. As you can see, this is the new list. Right, so here is the second step is to reorder. The third step is to make some installing. Don't worry, this might sound a bit too big, but I think that we can just make it in a very small percentage of the code or in the action flow, right? So as you can see here, we are going to go into a loop. And if you want to learn more about loops, there is a video in the description down below. But if it was not there, subscribe to the bell icon. So once I have published that video, you will be the first one to learn from it and understand this in a better way, right? So here we have loop 1, loop 2, loop 3. So all of these are just one loop. So we have one loop that has many loops inside it. So what is the first thing? So we start with, so we check all of this list, like we start with it, and we just say here we have some IDs. So what is the last item in the IDs list? What is the last one? It is number 6. Yes, here it is. So let's search for the row that has number 6 in the ID. This one is not. So here it is. So Maria is the one that has 6 in her ID. So here it is, Maria. Here is the row. So we are going to, so with the reordering, we change the index, because when you reorder, you are going to change the order of that item, whether it is on the top or the bottom or the second place or whatever. So we are going to change the index. So the new index is equal to what? This is the trick of all of this topic, like the reorder stuff and etc. Here is this part is the trick. So how do you know the new index? So don't worry about the result, just focus with me. So what is going to be the new index? This is the question that we all ask. We're going to do a reordering, so each row will have a new index. If it was moved from its place, which this means it will have a new index. It will stay at the top if we move it to the bottom, of course. So what is the new index? So here is the formula. The new index is what? Is the number of items. Number of items of what? Of this list. So here, how much items we want? Sorry, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So the items, so the number of items is 4. Good. So the new index is gonna be 4. Now, but it was 3, right? So let's move on. So what do you think the difference? So what was the difference from this one and this one? So since we have dealt with the last one, which is Maria, we gave it the new index. Everything is cool. So why care? We want to remove it. So once we were removed, we are going to search for the last item in the list. So what is the last item? So what is this ID? It's 10. So here's the last item. So which one has this this ID? So ID 3, 5, 6. Oh, here it is. The Nick is the one with ID is equal to 10. So here is Nick. So he has the ID equal to 10, and his index was 4. Before changing, it was 4. So what is going to be his new index? So again, it will be number of items. So how many items we have? We have 3. So we're going to give him 3. Let's repeat that. So the loop 3, we're going to remove him because we have already done with him. So what is the last item is 3. So John has the ID is equal to 3. His old index was 1. But this time we're going to give him a new index, which is the number of items. Here are the number of items. We have 2 items. So we are going to give him the new index 2. We do this again for Mike. But what is the result? Keep in mind that so we want to see this result in reality. So again, we switch it from 3 to 5 and 6 to 8. We switch it their places, as you can see here, right? So we switch it John with Mike and Maria with Nick. Do you think it's going to be the same result? So you see, it's the same result. Like Mike has the index 1, as you can see here. He is on the top because of this order by index. We saw that in the previous part. So Mike is on the top, John next to him, Nick and Maria. So let's bring in the old backend query for the sake of comparison and see. Did that work? Like, did we really switch John and Mike? Yes, we did. Did we really switch Maria and Nick? Yes, we did. Right? So all of these steps were correct, were like very simple. Like I tried to record. So just to let you know that this is the 4th time I record this part of the video, because I found some ways that were easier for me to work with, but harder for me to explain, which means that it will be harder for you to understand. So I recorded and deleted, and I recorded and deleted 4 times in order to get to this level. And I don't think that there is a simple way of working with reordering. Like I have went with you to the bottom. Like if you don't understand this, then I don't think you will understand from somewhere else, right? So it's really easy. It's not that complicated. And if you find it complicated, repeat it. And we are going to apply it in the next video, right? I want to apply it in this video because it will be too long. So now, before we move on to the next video, please repeat this process just to understand that, right? Just to understand that. And this was just a bit of explanation to you to help you understand. And we are going to apply this. So the application is much simpler than the understanding, as you will see. So again, reordering, I would do a recap. So here we have a backend query. And the custom code, as we have seen in the first part of the recap, it can only reorder either a list of strings or a list of IDs. It will never ever reorder a list of rows in the backend query. So what we do, so since the custom code only deals with a list of strings or integers, our only hope was to extract the IDs, and visually, like the user will drag this to the bottom and this one to the top visually, but in the backend we are not reordering this, we are not touching this. They are just visually being reordered, but in the backend we are changing the IDs. We give that list, so while the user is reordering, we steal the IDs, give them to the custom code. So while the user is reordering this item, for example, we have already switched. For example, we have switched just like that. For example, we have switched the IDs, as you can see, and then we install them. Like he switched 6, so he had, for example, 6 here, he put it to the bottom. So we went to this loop like to install the new indexes. So from 3 we went from 3 to 4. So Maria was the one before the last, now he's the last one. Nick was the last one, now he is the one before the last. So yes, this is the result. Like it's logical. Like we had 1 2 3 4 because we had this order by index. It was applied in this backend query, so it applies here as well as here. But once we change the index, just a small change in the index, we like give Nick 1 and John 2, so we switched them. So this is the result. Hopefully, so even if you don't get it, watch it again, please. And again, if you expect everything to be just easy, I think that development is not the right thing to you, because while developing, you need to expect the hard, not the easy. That's the reality that I have learned from my experience. I thought that even with no code, there is still a learning curve. So what I have explained to you now has taken me so much to figure. But you are getting it for a very, very low cost. You are not paying for it. You are getting it for free, and you are getting it easier. I am saving you time and money. So please, all I am asking you to do is to watch again, to learn, and wait for the next part where we are going to apply this. You are going to see it by your eyes, right? So I hope that this video helped you in some way, and wait for the next part. It will be either in the description down below, or if it was not there, it might show up somewhere on screen at the end of the video, or if it didn't show up neither, it was on the description. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell icon, so once I have published that video, I will notify you, so you can go and watch and learn from it and see how you can apply this reordering. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.